17, accepting stewardship grant funds from McCarthy County Park. We have speakers. We need to have a motion first, though.
Yeah,
The Group Supervisor O'Loughlin moves approval. Is there a second? Supervisor Hesselbein seconds. And a number of people registering just in opposition, and then I'll call up the ones who want to speak. In opposition, Gina Stussy, registering in opposition. Jeff Krabat, representing opposition. Deanna Duvall, registering in opposition. Richard Kautzer, registering in opposition. Karen Swanson, registering in opposition. Karen Logan, representing in opposition. And then wishing to speak, first of all, we have Annalise Emerson.
I'm here tonight to object to the way Resolution 17-1213 has been fast-tracked and is now before your committee for approval. There's been little opportunity for citizens in Dane County to find out about this issue, except through individual citizens and groups trying to get the word out. It's been handled secretively and downplayed the entire time, intentionally to keep this on track and keep the public from being involved. The minimal legal requirement to post meetings may have always been met, but if no one knows about it, and for example, if only 5 people show up, it's a good indicator they are not meeting the spirit of the law, which is to include the public in meaningful discussion. I table at the farmer's market, and many people are shocked to know trapping is even allowed. They think the traps had been banned and can't believe that they're being allowed in our county parks. All around this country, people and groups are now objecting to these cruel traps that maim animals and are fighting to end trapping in their states. Congress is also considering legislation to end the same traps you are being asked to authorize payment for in our national wildlife refuges. Our parks and our wildlife refuges should be places where we and all wildlife should be safe, not a place where animals suffer. These traps are not humane and safe as they claim. Countless cats, dogs, and other non-targeted animals are caught and killed in traps for the most horrible reasons, to provide pelts for the fur trade. Fur prices are good. The demand is big now in China. I've got all sorts of reports. And these traps are indiscriminate. Anything that steps into the device gets trapped. A trap has no brain and can't tell the difference between a family pet or a target animal. And the claims of disease control and population management are also bogus. You can't target a diseased animal which doesn't eat in the latter part of the disease and won't go into a trap, and they only want to crawl off somewhere to die. 90% of the public simply wants to enjoy wildlife. We, the 90%, have not been given the opportunity to explore other possibilities, to bring in revenue to acquire and preserve more public lands. To allow killing animals in traps to receive stewardship funds should not be the only way to do this. We can be more creative, but we've not been given the chance to learn and discuss this. Please take a moral stand against this. It's disgraceful that the word stewardship is used in such a warped way. Real stewardship of our environment would never allow such suffering to the wildlife living in it. It's just plain morally wrong to trade the lives of other living beings for the special interest of the fur trade. Please don't turn a blind eye to the suffering this will allow. I don't want any traps in my county parks. These traps endanger every living being that comes by it and equally pose a real safety risk to us and our children. Let's find a more humane solution, a more humane, non-lethal solution. Accepting the stewardship money by allowing animals to be cruelly trapped is so insane. Please say no to this insanity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, Carolyn Schupel.
I was here before talking about the need for money for public safety, and now I'm going to personalize the situation. This is a picture of a dog caught in a trap. I apologize for not being able to give you a picture of it. This is not known to me early enough, but I don't know. Can you see that?
We'll just circulate. We'll see this.
I was walking on a trail. It was on a 16-foot wide easement. It was an obvious human trail. There was a huge sign. This sign was about this large and this wide. It's yellow, you can't miss it. No camping, hunting, trapping, fishing, or fires. And yet a trapper made a mistake. The trapper has a drug and alcohol problem, very severe in nature. He left a trap on a private piece of land. It was against trapping regulations, and my dog fell prey to it, and I tried to get him out, and I also was damaged fairly severely. This is what's going to start happening. The state has introduced the stewardship grant funds, and they require the trapping. So now this is the first time trapping will be in a park. I actually feel that and Elise just spoke to the fact that the public doesn't even know about trapping. They think it's something from the past. I don't think the staff that I saw at the Dane County Parks Commission either was that aware of trapping. 2 people did not vote because they said they don't know enough. And all of the people really didn't know very much at all about trapping. And what they know about trapping comes from the state of Wisconsin. And this is an example of trapping information. There's a study in here, it's quite biased. Trappers, I've communicated with many trappers, they don't even know about the latest wildlife experts' knowledge of how to work with animals. This is called Call of the Wild. It's a contemporary analysis of the trapping in the United States. If you talk to most trappers, they know nothing about that. And our county is being supervised and guided by the state of Wisconsin with this biased research. It is for money purposes, definitely expedient to gather money. This is a billion-dollar industry, maybe multi-billion-dollar industry, the fur industry. This is not serving the public. This is not my idea of park management. I actually went to school and learned some things about park management. I would never do this to the public. There must be another way. We've been told money is the problem. I don't believe that, because I was told by my supervisor, Ben Robin Schmidt, in the county, that years ago, the county of Dane went out of their way to research and find ways to build special dog parks that are unlike any in the nation. So why couldn't the county do something to change this problem? You're responsible for the death of more pets as well as injury to the public. So you need to think about that before you vote for this. Thank you.
Next up is Patricia Randolph.
There's not a picture you can circulate on this. I probably won't have time to read it since you're in 3 minutes, but it's a story that someone up in Hunt Hill Sanctuary sent me about a beaver in the water, in a trap, struggling for several days. Every animal is killed young in this state. And how she found it and thought she was going to take a picture of it. It's a dying beaver in a trap, struggling to survive. That's a coyote. That's a coyote being stripped down after being trapped. Thank you. You're welcome. I served on the trapping committee of the Conservation Congress for 3 years. I was the first elected protectionist for wildlife in the Conservation Congress as a Dane County delegate from 1999 to 2002. And I also write a column called Mad Ravens Speak, a living wildlife column for the Cap Times, because I feel so strongly about what's going on, because I research this stuff. And trapping, I don't think very many people understand trapping at all because they don't like to look at it and they don't really want to know. But I emailed all of you some video that Born Free did, undercover video of how trapped animals are treated and how they die, how they're killed. And the United Nations has given a final warning to humanity. We are destroying the web of life that supports us. This is no small thing. You may think that taking a stand on this is a small thing. It's a very major, serious thing that you're about to do. Because buying land to destroy wildlife for a small percentage, 8,700 people in Wisconsin trap, is it's going to destroy our wildlife in all of our lands. Wildlife are particularly vulnerable in winter. 4.5 months of trapping in winter, even 1 or 2 trappers on the land, unlimited trapping, unlimited traps on trap lines, unlimited bag limits. They're already destroying an admitted 517,000 mid-range fur animals in the state for an average of, they're paying 19 cents a piece to destroy our wildlife. That $98,000 went into the state tax coffers to kill over 500,000 animals last year. When you expand this into all of our public lands, it's unprecedented pressure at a time when we fragmented habitat and we're destroying our wildlife for nothing. And this is the web of life that supports us. I brought this beaver story because I've done the research. The DNR is just a killing machine. And they estimated in 2009 that we had 66,800 beavers in the state. Over the next 2 seasons, 16 months, they killed 69,000 beavers for trappers to take skins for $13 a piece. Beavers create the most valuable habitat in the world. It costs $10,000 to $100,000 an acre for a man to create what beavers do naturally. Hydrologists say that water, which is a huge issue, going to be just oil for this world. The most important thing we have. The destruction of water in North America is due to the destruction of beavers and agricultural drainage. So when you put trapping into all of our lands, you are destroying so much more than you think you know. You need to research this and stop this right here and take a stand.
Thank you, Patricia.
You're welcome.
The next up is Kathy Wolf.
Wow, it's kind of hard to follow some of the people who just spoke. I just learned of this a couple of hours ago, which I think one of the speakers said most of the public doesn't know about this. I did attend the Conservation Congress and learned quite a bit about trapping, more than I ever wanted to know. Both my brothers and my dad deer hunt, and so I'm not against hunting. But trapping is not hunting. It's absolutely barbaric. And that people don't have to check these traps for, right now they were trying to set a new standard for 4 days. Imagine yourself in the worst root canal situation you've ever had with no anesthetic, and then multiply that by 100, and that's what these animals suffer. And what this does is it sets a precedent in our county to allow county land, first time that a county recreational park allows trapping. So this is a really important decision that you're making here, because once that precedent has been set, then we continue with more of this trapping. And we have to think of public safety. It's not just cats and dogs, but it's our kids and other people that want to use our county lands and this resource. And this belongs to us. It belongs to the public. And when you've got less than 10,000 trappers putting so many of our people and our kids and our pets at risk, that's not right. It's not fair. And the Department of Natural Resources is not protecting the natural resources with this level of hunting in our state parks. And you can say no for our county parks, and I hope you do, because everyone's made a number of the points, so I won't review the same things with you about the water quality and what beavers do to preserve our wetlands. But these are really important issues, and I hope that you'll take a stand and say no to the trapping aspect of this provision. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there anybody who wanted to speak who hasn't filled out a slip? Not, are there questions from the committee? Supervisor Hasselbeck?
I have questions for Laura. Can you come up, please? I remember reading an article, I think it was in the Wisconsin State Journal with Darren Marsh, and he was walking around showing people traps, and I'm wondering, were those at the county park? I can't remember, it was like last year, there's a large article in the paper. Do you remember, do you have any idea what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I remember the article. I guess I can't remember the specifics. He might have been showing county wildlife areas, which are already open to trapping.
So we already have places in our county parks that have trapping.
Yeah, we have the county park system divided into different categories or classifications. So we have county wildlife areas, which are already open to hunting and trapping. We also have county forests, county natural resource areas, county historic sites, and then county recreation parks. This grant would reimburse the county for an acquisition of land we made at McCarthy County Park, which is a recreation park. The grant restrictions only apply to that specific property, so the 25 acres, as opposed to the rest of the park, which is about 280 acres. This particular piece of property is separated from the rest of the park by a very wide ditch and wetland area, so there's no overlap of uses. I also want to point out that our Parks Director, Darren, has worked really closely with different members of the public that we've heard from to make sure that we have restrictions in place that he and his staff can enforce and that we're not creating any safety issues. So the county rules do go above and beyond what people might find or encounter on DNR properties. For example, if someone's trapping, and we would only give out 1 to 2 permits per year, the traps would only be valid November through February. The permit holder would be required to check the traps on a daily basis. The traps on land are live traps only, so the animal should not be critically injured when they enter the trap. So the trap that was referenced earlier that killed a dog, that type, that model would be banned on this property. And we don't currently have any trails running through this part of the park, which again, it's just this 25 acres here. The rest of the park is not open to trapping. We don't have any trails, but if there are trails developed in the future, the traps must be set significantly back from the trails. And if someone is walking a dog, we do require that dogs remain on leash at all times. So Darren's done a lot of research. He's worked carefully with our rangers. He's also worked carefully with the state's wardens, who are also going to be patrolling this to make sure that there aren't any issues.
Thank you. The trapping period is November to February.
Mm-hmm.
And during that period, each year, there will be 1 to 2 permits allowed.
Okay.
Under each permit, how many traps can I set?
There is no limit.
No limit.
Mm-hmm.
Are we capable of putting a limit on those permits?
I suppose it's possible. We'd have to check with the DNR to make sure that they would allow that for the grant. But it's something we could explore.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
And I think I heard you say this, that it would be live traps.
Mm-hmm.
So the type of cage that animal goes in, right?
Right, but I did hear a comment from the audience, which is a good point, and that is there is a ditch here, and if you wanted to set water traps, those are lethal traps.
Are lethal.
Mm-hmm. To reduce suffering, so that if an animal is caught, it's caught immediately.
And they can be on either side of the ditch, so that it could be on the side where there's access?
Well, they can only access from this side, and the ditch is pretty wide and deep, and you have to set the traps off the banks. I think it's 10 feet off the banks. So you're not going to be, they shouldn't be on that eastern bank at all. And they can't access
There's no access allowed, so you couldn't say, well, I'm going to trap the ditch, but I'm going to come in from this side of the park. You have to access off of County Highway N. And you'd be crazy to walk in that ditch. It's really mucky and deep and wide, so no one's going to cross the ditch.
Okay, but just so I'm clear though, so the live trap, normally it's live traps, but in that spot, there could be
On land, it's live, and in water, it's
water or
lethal.
muck or whatever it is.
Mhm.
It's
Connect.
What?
the lethal traps.
Lethal.
So it's like a trap like this or something. I don't know.
It's a trap that's intended to kill the animal immediately, as opposed to grabbing its leg and then having it drown slowly. This would kill it instantly when it's caught in the trap.
Supervisor Exum?
That's one other. Why is it different? I guess I don't know if that's a question for you, but
Yeah, the goal is by live trapping on land, you reduce instances of a non-targeted species. So if someone's trying to catch a rabbit and they instead get someone's cat, the cat's not killed and it can be released.
Right.
That's one of the reasons we require that the traps are checked on a daily basis, so that someone can get to that trap that same day to release the animal if it was not what they were targeting. And in water, you can't really have live trapping because once that animal is caught, it's underwater. The traps are set underwater, so if it's caught underwater, it's going to drown. So rather than having the animal drown, the goal would be to have the trap itself kill it instantly rather than prolonging that experience.
Supervisor Silver?
I got a couple questions, so
Okay.
cut me off if it gets too much.
no, go ahead. Let somebody else go. I don't want to.
Okay.
I have another question.
Well, first I'm wondering about how are you going to enforce this daily basis of checking?
That's our rangers. That's what our rangers are for, and we also have, we talk to the DNR and their wardens manage these areas as well. So we do have staff going out to the park on a daily basis.
But how are they going to know that that rabbit or whatever wasn't the same one that was there yesterday? I mean, it just seems a little impractical to me that and especially if there's no limit on the number of traps that they can set, that they would be able to enforce this.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have to admit we haven't done it yet. So some of this is adjusting as the seasons go on. You know, if this is approved, this winter would be the first time that it's enforced, and maybe there's ways we can work through the permit system of having different markings or whatnot, because the traps must be marked and they have to be marked with visible tape or other markings, and so maybe there's a way that they could change colors
This
or
woman is a
add
liar,
tape.
you know,
No,
she's really lying.
I'm sorry.
You're out of order.
I'm sorry, but it's
You're on
true.
board.
She's lying. They're not gonna mark it with tape.
They're
They're gonna mark it with earth tone flags.
Say on those
Sorry,
staff.
ma'am, you cannot speak out in the hearing.
Well, then she can't
You
lie.
said that.
And I'm sorry I don't have the permit rules in front of me, but our permit rules specifically require markings that are not earth toned. There was an earlier draft that did ask for earth tone markings, which actually we had originally designed so that if you're walking, it wouldn't kind of be a visual interruption, and since the traps shouldn't be on the trail anyway, you shouldn't have walked into them. But to address some of the concerns we've heard about not being able to see the traps, we changed the permit to require bright colored markings on the traps.
Okay, well, I'll just say, I'm not like really comfortable with this whole thing, and I'm probably going to vote against it, but if it passes, I would hope that we have some sort of numbering system or something so that we can know where those traps are and that we can check them every day and ensure that they're being checked, because, you know, the thought of an animal living out there for 4 or 5 days until it starves bothers me. And then I guess I'll ask a couple of gruesome questions. They're live trapped, then how are they killed after that? Do we specify, or does the DNR specify how they're killed?
They're shot.
They are shot, so they're not being killed in a way to preserve the coats then? Or, I mean, does the DNR ensure that they're shot?
I guess I can't answer that.
Okay.
I believe it's legal to either shoot them
Okay, and then my last question about the trapping is, with the live traps, from understand and how I've seen that they're supposed to work, is the animal's supposed to get all the way in, and then the door's supposed to shut. But what's to prevent it from shutting midway or catching that foot or the tail?
I can answer that.
Okay.
Because I happen to have a trap. And I happen to have an extended length that's about 5 foot because we have raccoons. And what we do is we set the trap so that the food is in about 3.5 to 4 feet inside the trap. So Mr. Raccoon or Mrs. Raccoon, depending upon who you have, they'll come in and there's a trip wire. And they trip the wire. And as soon as they trip the wire back here, then the trap shuts. So you've got your, no physical problem for the animal. They're in the trap.
I guess I would just ask, if, on the question that Supervisor O'Loughlin asked earlier about whether we can limit the number if this is approved, when we get to the floor, I think there could be some questions on that.
Sure.
And we'll get the answer to that. Supervisor McDowell.
So the issue here is that since this is a park, this would normally not be trapping since it's designated park.
Correct.
So what happens if the DNR later potentially removes this restriction or condition on stewardship money?
Well, that would give the county a lot more flexibility, excuse me, on how we manage our lands.
So as of right now, though, would this automatically revert to our current policy, or would it be, hey, I've been trapping here for 5 years now?
I guess I can't make any guarantees, but my prediction is that this isn't going to be, at this particular site, an extremely popular use. So I don't think we're going to get lots of people applying for these permits. And if someone was concerned that we were taking away the use, if the DNR rules change, we have several wildlife areas that we could point them to. So we're not taking away the opportunity throughout the system, just at this particular site.
Well, I guess what I would like to see is some language that would revert this land to non-trapping if that restriction is limited, because that's our policy. But you know what they say in an analogy, you have rails to trails. If you take a rail line, you put to a bike path, it's never going back to a train. And if you take land and you start letting it be trapped, I don't know what would happen, but I would imagine it'd be hard to untrap it. So I'd like to do that up front. And two, I would like to see if we can get by with a bare minimum. For me, we're not going to stop trapping anywhere. You know, this is all going to go on. This is a minor piece of it, but I don't like the idea of our parks being trapped. I'd like to comply to the bare minimum of this because, you know, we rely on stewardship money to protect land that could be developed and would destroy habitat. So that's the point of this purchase. But I'd like to barely conform to the minimum since this is designated as parkland. So if you could research, I wouldn't mind if we gave out one permit with one trap. Because, but on other land, you know, it's we have it designed differently as not parks, not for pets, it's not for public.
And I'm concerned in the opposite direction that Supervisor McDonald is, in that, you know, our whole state seems to be moving backwards these days. There's voter ID and, you know, concealed carry and the whole 9 yards. And so my question is, this seems to confer a property right, you know, not exactly, but upon these trappers who, once they get established, could say, well, I make my living off of this. You're taking my living away. And if we were to, you know, in some way take on more land, more grant money from the DNR, and then they would say, well, look, you got it in McCarthy Park here. Why don't you have it here? So I'm worried in the opposite direction. My question is this the first time that we propose to do this?
This is the first time we're proposing to accept stewardship funds for a county recreation park since the statute changed.
When was that?
2007.
Okay.
We have accepted these grant dollars for county wildlife areas.
And if we in any way infringe on the right to trap, then we wouldn't get the money? Is that how that works?
Well, we've already created a permit system that's much more restrictive than what the DNR, for example, allows on their land. So DNR, you don't have to check the traps daily, you don't have to mark them. I mean, we do have some provisions in place that go above and beyond their standards.
I'm just saying,
But-
if we say no trapping,
Then we will not.
we won't get the money.
No
Yeah.
public input on that.
And in the 160 in reimbursement, it says for projects. What does that mean? It's in the second paragraph, reimbursement for projects.
That's essentially the acquisition cost. So we're potentially, if the grant's accepted, the county will be reimbursed 50% of our purchase price. So the 160 is 50% of what we paid for the property.
Supervisor Huskell?
I don't know if you even know the answer, I was curious, how many traps are there in Dane County? Any
Private property.
Oh, no.
Just private property? I mean, nobody.
No, we in the wildlife
Well,
areas.
where are we?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
How many traps are there in our wildlife areas?
How many are being set?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I was just kind of curious.
Are there other questions from the committee?
Well, I got a comment, but not a question, so she must have comment. I just think this is a disastrous way to go. I mean, we're just going exactly the wrong way, you know, with the entire state of mind in Wisconsin and now Dane County. I mean, we banned smoking because that's bad. We cracked down on drunk drivers, and then you know, we allow trapping to expand, unlimited. We don't have a way to keep track of this, and I just don't think that we should be in the business of sanctioning cruelty, and that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a practice that is from the 18th, 17th century. We're carrying through on this. We're legitimizing it. And I think it's just terrible that we set this precedent. Yeah, we're getting 160,000. But what is that? That's a drop in the bucket. We already have the land. It's not like we're going to lose the land. Land is ours. And the land is ours to say no trapping. Now, for the love of some lucre, you know, very minor amount, we're setting this precedent. And we are opening the door to this kind of treatment of animals. I think it's the wrong direction for this board.
Supervisor O'Loughlin?
In my sense of this discussion that we've had around the table here is that there is not much support for this as it is designed as Resolution 17. There was some, I brought up the fact of could we limit or amend, put an amendment in this, at least get it out of here and get it, everybody at the board floor, let everybody go at it. In other words, we could pass it out of here. So I'm going to make an amendment that, and Chair McDonald made a good point. I'm going to make an amendment that says for each permit allowed, one trap will be granted. And I think our maximum is 2 that we can get, 2 permits. Okay, so that would give us 2 traps in this 25-acre.
Well, I'll second it just so we can find out whether that's legal or not. And I think to discuss that, I think in my ideal world, we take this money so that we have more money to get other land, and that hopefully eventually we can remove this restriction in the future. But if we don't take this money, it'll go to another county who will trap animals, and they won't have a 1 trap limit.
Right.
I guarantee you that. That if we don't do this, this money will go somewhere else, and they'll trap a lot more animals. So, I prefer, I don't, And the thing that I don't like is these traps where you don't know what you're catching and what's happening out there. It just bothers me. So that would be fine with me, but I do think we need to check on that.
Have court
What we
counsel
can do.
check it. You can check, have court counsel check.
Okay, so Supervisor O'Loughlin moves that we add language, and do you have a preference where?
Oh, I don't care, just put it in,
After the first, at the
No.
sentence after the, therefore be it resolved.
yeah.
After that first
After the-
sentence, that say, for
On
each
that,
permit
allowed
allowed,
one.
one trap will be granted.
One trap will be granted.
Okay.
May I offer a friendly amendment to that?
Please.
Could we insert the word live, make it a live trap, so it's not a lethal trap?
Well, that was,
I wouldn't be against that, but I bet that would run afoul. I don't know. Can you check on?
Yeah, I can check on that.
Why don't we leave the language? But if we can, I'm friendly to that. But I don't know.
Supervisor Erickson?
that was going back to another question I didn't ask, was this restriction or the contingency or, on this money is, like, how are they defining it? And that's why I was asking about these, like, water traps or whatever. And they say you can have X amount of live traps, but then you can also have X amount of water traps. Like, could we
The
just say
DNR does
that was my
not
question?
set any standards, and so every time the county creates
That's
these extra rules, we have to go to DNR staff and say, is this okay? Is this okay? So,
So we could go to them
so
and
we're
ask
not
and say,
sure. I'm not sure what the response
because
was.
that was my question before. That's like,
Well-
could we just specify?
Supervisor Gonzalez?
May I suggest? I like these. Actually, I don't mind Supervisor Dakewich's amendment. I think it's a good idea. But why don't we postpone? Can we postpone this?
That's fine.
Because maybe things will have a different DNR secretary in a month. And maybe not. But if not, who cares? So why don't we postpone this, and then we might get a different answer from staff if we ask it in a month than if we ask it today.
Second.
Okay, Supervisor McDonald moves that we postpone this to
So I don't know, June.
till June. Seconded
June 6th.
by Supervisor O'Loughlin.
I do have a question, in the interim then, is trapping not allowed?
We don't have.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Alright.
All right, I'm done.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Good job, Laura.
Thank you, Laura.